Our movie begins with Safi and James, a newly married couple who are very happy and comfortable in their life together. They move to live in a new apartment and carry the furniture with them. James works for his father in a company that grants loans and investments. His father is a big businessman in his field, very rich. One day he receives a call from his family telling him that his father died. Consequently, James acquires all of his father's possessions and becomes the director of a huge state-owned company. He decides to move from the apartment they live in and go to a huge palace that is suitable for someone in James's position. With time, they get used to living in the palace and have many servants to do the housework. Safia is always at home, doing nothing because all the servants do it. But with time, she feels bored, and this rich life turns into an uncomfortable life. Although the servants did not have any impact in their service, Safi decides to live alone in the palace with her husband. She must fire all the servants from their work and pay them their full rights. Then James finds out that his wife Safi did this and is upset about what happened and tells her that the palace is too big for Safi to work in alone and that they must hire servants. But in the last discussion, he does what his wife wants and continues with them together, and they sleep. One day, James is working, and in the middle of a meeting with the company's managers, his wife calls him and wants his help in operating the lawnmower in the garden. At night, James goes and operates the machine and fixes its faults, and the situation remains like this every day. Safi keeps stopping James from his work because she does not know how to manage the palace herself. She keeps asking him how to act and wants his help. She is the reason for all of this because she is the one who fired the servants and did not listen to her husband. One day, he goes to a man named Julian who makes and sells robots with special artificial intelligence that can be used in tasks cleaning and housework. At first, they are offered a robot in the form of a beautiful girl, but Safi does not agree to the choice because she wants to be the only woman living in the palace. After that, they agree with Julian to buy a robot in the form of a handsome young man whose name is Henari. After that, Henari spends every day doing the cleaning, cooking, washing, and all the housework, and doing anything that his friends pass by. At first, everything is going well, without any problems. But one day, Henari is in Safi's room and sees her changing her clothes by chance. Safi does not realize that he is there, and when she realizes, she makes him go outside, and Safi calls James to complain to him about what happened with him and Henry. One day, the relationship between the couple becomes tense, and there are problems between them, and Safi always feels lonely because James is always busy with his work every day. With time, she begins to involuntarily compensate for the loss of James's presence there, and she spends her time alone in the palace, and as the days pass, Safi's feelings towards Henry begin to move. One day, she reads from him a book that talks about human feelings and emotions, so that he can comprehend this with his artificial intelligence and know how to deal with it just like humans. Henry actually begins to develop his artificial intelligence and becomes attached to Safi's presence. This results in him having primary feelings and emotions, and every situation he faces has an impact on shaping his personality and feelings. One night, Safi hears a voice coming from outside while she is sleeping in the room with her husband. She wonders what's wrong. Here, she finds Reem in the garden. He is depressed and says that he is dreaming and wishes that he was a normal human being. The next day, James and Safi go to Julian and ask him about the strange behavior that Henry did yesterday. Julian tells them that it might have happened because they made Henry's feelings and emotions develop in an exaggerated way, and thus he might think of himself as a human being and deal with them as if he were one of them. They return to the palace, and one day James blames his wife for what she did to Hanari, and that she is the one who caused all this for him. In this state, their relationship is about to end. One day, after work, James returns home and finds a letter from Safi that Bella had written. The letter was written a long time ago, from when they were moving to the first house. It shows how much she loved James and was drawing her life with him. In Beirut, James goes to the room and lights candles and creates a romantic atmosphere. Safi enters and wants to get into a relationship with him, but she refuses and tells him that she does not feel comfortable with something like this with him now. One night, Hanari talks to Safi and tells her that he has feelings for her and loves her. Hanari feels that he was designed to do everything Safi wants and that he can get into a relationship with him as part of his service to her. Safi falls asleep and dreams of fire while he is giving her a massage session. The next day, when James goes to work, Safi comes and opens the door to her room while she is changing because Henar sees her and then goes to meet him to make sure that he saw her. One day, James comes back from work and sees his wife sitting with Henar by the swimming pool. They are just talking to each other, but James feels jealous of his wife. So, one day, he goes to Julian and asks him to solve Henar's issue. But Julian tells him that Henar's behavior is related to what his friend or mistress wants. James goes, and Henar passes by and tells him not to deal with Safi again. Here, Ray is sad and depressed and tells Safi what James told him. She wants to discuss with James what he did, and they reconcile. Safi decides that she should leave the house for a few days until she calms down. The next day, James calls his wife Safi from his office and wants to fix the relationship between them. Safi is at the palace behind James's back to meet Henar. Henar gives her a massage and kisses her and says, "I love you," in the same way that James says it. Safi calls and feels uncomfortable. When James returns, Safi confesses everything to him. James gets angry when he knows what is happening behind his back and goes to hit Hanari and disconnects the power circuit from its charger. The next morning, James and Safi are waiting for Julian to come home to pick up Hanari. But Julian is late and James goes to work, leaving Safi to wait for him alone. After a while, Hanari wakes up and is surprised that he can move without a battery. He goes and sees Safi and notices the words on Hanari's face. Safi is upset and goes to James's office to upset him for what he did. Julian arrives, but Safi ignores him in his anger. Then Hanari looks at himself in the mirror and notices bruises on his face. He is supposed to be a robot. Julian enters and tries to enter his room, but Hanari does not listen to him. Hanari takes him to task because Julian was lying to them all this time. Safi leaves. James is at the office, and there they both regret what they did, and James tells her that he took out all his anger on Henry, and he beat him because he was angry because Safi favored Henry over him, and at the end of the conversation between them, they forgive each other for what they did, and go home together, and when they return home they find Henry alone in the garden, but Henry tells them that he knew that he was a human his whole life, and that he was a slave, and this makes Julian's possessions come to the fore, and he learns that he is a con man, and that all the robots are humans he raised and brainwashed them to think that they are robots, and Julian is the one who adopted Henry when he was young, and that he was exposed to physical violence from his mother, and that she kicked him out of the house when he was a child, and after that James and Safi arrive, and there are 2 officers with them to arrest Julian who is in their house, and Julian suddenly appears to them in the garden, and he has a gun and kills the officers with it, and comes to aim at James and Safi, but Henry intervenes and jumps on him and takes the gun from him, and they beat her until he dies without mercy, and Henry feels betrayed by Julian, who raised him, and feels betrayed when he was valued by Safi, while he was working for her, and one was her husband with her. So Hanari became free and killed himself with a knife, and Safi and James were crying, and he was cheering for Hanari while he was dying and taking his last breaths. After 5 years, Safi and James appear sitting in the garden, and they have given birth, and they have a son whom they named Henry after the one who died, and they decide that they will tell their son about the story of his name one day when he grows up. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Movie Story for more amazing movie recaps. Let us know in the comments which movie you'd like us to cover next. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.